Hello, it's news, and I'm Cody Johnston. Hey, listen. Hey, hello, hi, here's some news. Right-wing YouTuber Change My Mind changer Steven Crowder was recently in the hospital receiving pectus surgery and treatment for a lung collapse. And that's a bummer. Not just because nobody likes being in the hospital unless they have some kind of, hospital fetish, but also because we were going to do an episode about him, but didn't want to, kick him while he was down. That would be pretty mean, like something like a Steven Crowder type might do. Because Xenu knows that it's not nice to speak ill of the ill, right? And even worse, to speak ill of the recently murdered.
Oh, there he is. Oh no, Sam Cedar. What a fucking nightmare.
Gruesome stuff. Anywho, he's better now. So congratulations on getting better, Steven Crowder. You really helped a news dude out. In other news, to briefly summarize before we get to the real point here, Steven Crowder is a desperate right-wing shill who ambushes unsuspecting college freshmen with his debate team quasi-regional champion cue cards while being deathly afraid of anyone with actual knowledge. He tries exceedingly hard to be a comedian by making fun of people based on race, sexuality, gender, and religion, plagiarizing most of his content from middle school bathroom walls. There's this classic "socialism is for figs" t-shirt that he claims is not homophobic, and him calling Carlos Maza a gay man, a lispy queer. In one of his Louder with Crowder episodes that got him temporarily booted from YouTube, he and his henchmen, I think they're henchmen, well, they did a segment making fun of Asian people with stereotypes plagiarized from, I don't even know when, middle school bathroom walls from the 1880s, that one Dr. Seuss book. Fun stuff, Steven. Glad you're doing better. Listen, I probably don't need to sell you on the fact that Steven Crowder is one of them racists. I'm sure his excuse is that his comedy is edgy and we're all snowflakes for not laughing at his funny jokes. But if you're not the walking personification of a Call of Duty chat, you probably already see right through this. You might even know that Steven Crowder actually started his career as a stand-up comedian and was what's the word?
Of course, I grew up in a high school which was largely Middle Eastern, so you get these Arab thugs. You can't pull off the thug look and be like, oh, you know what? I am going to mess you up hardcore. Check out the turban, white boy. I wear my nut on the left side. Yes, that's the crib side.
Bad. That was the word. Steven Crowder was a bad comedian, and still is a bad comedian, and even then, a racist one. A racist, bad comedian. And a bad racist comedian? He can't even do the racism correctly. Arabs don't have whatever weird fake Indian or Pakistani accent Crowder is trying to do, and turbans aren't typically an Arab thing. And yet, he liked this bit so much, he did it again at TCon Midwest in 2011.
Of course, I grew up in a high school which was largely Middle Eastern, so you get these Middle Eastern wannabe thugs. You're nice people, but you can't pull off the thug look. Oh, you know what? I am going to mess you up hardcore. Hey, check out the German white boy. I wear my nut on the left side. Yes, that's the crib side.
And if you watch just a little bit more, you'll see the actual point of his whole shtick and what people actually want from him.
It's gonna get a comment at Media Matters.
That's the big laugh. Not the joke part, but the part where he points out that other people will be mad that he did a racist joke. That's where it all comes from. But look, I'm not trying to be Lord Comeday, casting bolts of judgment down from atop my cloud, Mount Olympus, but I think it's safe to say that Steven Crowder is part of that subset of comedians who didn't really cut it doing stand-up and opted to appeal to the niche audience of hardcore racists who force laughter through their sneering maws anytime someone does a stereotypical black person voice.
I don't know where you find this many farmers of color. But they did, and $5.2 billion are being allocated exclusively for colored farmers. Farmers of color, roll the tape. Yeah, most happy about the new policy, these people. So, yeah. I'm gonna buy a plow, man.
I'm gonna plant that corn.
Go get a John Deere. Barack Obama, mother, I'm the president of plowing that ass.
I planted a Hennessy tree, but it's not growing.
Well, technically it did grow, but that shit ain't XO.
I put it in the ground.
I planted a VSOP XO tree. I'm getting in some niche esoteric cognac humor, motherfucker.
So, I guess the joke is that black people can't be farmers? Such biting comedy. And boy, we sure could go through all of Steven's videos like this, specifically the dark vat that is his older videos, which all hinged on a combination of conservative values, blinding racism, and a series of incredibly depressing comedic impressions, which are, yes, often also racist.
Now, it should be noted that every detainee must get 3 square meals and adequate hydration. Diet?
Yeah.
Because this doesn't taste like diet.
It's diet.
Death to America. People out there, do you honestly believe that America is losing its moral high ground and consider this torture?
It's actually pretty remarkable to watch sitcom-level safe humor combined with seething hate to create this megazord of bad comedy, a witch's brew of uber-Republican ideals and gaudy vaudevillian instincts.
Yeah, the economy is pretty much getting creamed, but that's because it was all George Bush's fault! Don't worry about that. Let's just dance!
Now that's actually a pretty good Pee Wee Herman, so I don't know, maybe I'm just too shocked and pearl clutching to find that funny. Or maybe it's because of all the other things I just said about Steven not being all that funny. And when his humor isn't racist or political, it's basically stuck in the 1990s.
You notice a disturbing trend, dream catchers hanging from rear view mirrors in cars? You guys seen this? It's a Native American Indian contraption, consists of wooden hoops and feathers, supposed to help you sleep soundly. Why the heck would you need a dream catcher in your car? I mean, it's one thing to fall asleep at the wheel, but to plan on it?
Ha! Right? Dream catchers in cars? Have you seen this? You hear about this? People driving with dream catchers for dreams? But you can't sleep in a car. I mean, sure, you know, it's fine. It's a joke. It's fine. It's better than being racist, perhaps. And he gets some laughs doing it, albeit from a crowd of people there to watch him do the racist stuff later on. The point here is that, in terms of his comedy background, Steven Crowder's origin story isn't exactly mysterious. Much like a lot of these grifter weirdos, he started in the entertainment industry, was met with failure, and pivoted to being the thing he is today. But again, this isn't really the point, that he's racist or not that funny, or whatever combination of the two. Because look, Steven Crowder just got surgery, and sometimes life-altering events, such as surgery, can change a person's perspective. He got help from doctors, put his life in their hands. Maybe what he described as a near-death experience gave him a different perspective. After all, if he hadn't had access to healthcare and the best doctors, he would have been in trouble. Maybe some of the fear he experienced helped open his eyes to the plight of other people. No, I'm sorry, I can't actually do this. Of course, none of that happened, obviously. Like, I truly hoped that Steven Crowder would get good healthcare, extend his life, and actually change his mind. But spoilers, that didn't happen. And before this surgery, he's had so many videos about the evils of universal healthcare or single-payer healthcare and Obamacare. Like, not critiques about it or how it needs to be better, but actually saying it's bad and we shouldn't do it. Specifically, he likes to claim that other countries where you pay less also offer less good healthcare.
Studies show that health service patients are 45% more likely to die in British hospitals than the United States. And I've talked about this many times. Wait times in Canada for hospital beds, they're close to 9 hours. The NHS failed to reach its goal of a 4-hour wait.
The goal?
Yeah. 4-hour wait times in the ERs. What time in the US? It's about 2 hours. So again, don't just look at the one portion of the equation. How much are you spending? What are you getting for that? What is the rest of the world getting from privately funded healthcare?
Hey, neat fact about that study saying more people die in the hospital in Britain. It wasn't peer-reviewed, took information from a very small sample in the US, but most notably, the reason why less Americans are dying in a hospital, if true, wouldn't have to do with hospitals in America being better quality. It actually just means more Americans are dying at home because they can't afford to die in a hospital, which you might recognize as literally the opposite of his point. But yes, he's right that Canada has a wait time problem, especially when it comes to seeing a specialist. But there's an argument that it has more to do with Canada's inability to properly fund programs designed to help, and also the US just has way more specialists. But at the end of the day, Canadians still tend to have a longer life expectancy, specifically for patients with a chronic illness. And that was a direct result of Canadian access to healthcare. Not saying it's perfect up there, what with all the Wolverines running around, but rather that this conversation is way more nuanced than Steven is making it. But of course, he's not actually having that conversation. He's just saying that since Canada has wait times, it means Obamacare is bad. Not that it should be better, just that it's bad and we shouldn't do it.
I happen to be a proponent of a single-payer universal health care plan.
That's cool!
Hey, I know there. That's why I put it in there. That's why I pay.
You guys, you all afraid because of the Care Obama. Okay, in Quebec, we have it for a long time. At work, no problem, okay?
So I go to doctor. I need to get a tetanus shot, là. And I take me peut-être 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. And how you feel after that?
Hey, I feel okay, là. Every once in a while, my jaw get a bit stuck.
Holy Christ, is he doing Borat? Not that it matters, but most Canadians have tetanus boosters because they're free, but if you didn't, you just go to the ER there, and while wait times are long, they still average only a few hours before a doctor would see you, and so he's a liar is my point. I'm getting into the weeds here, because most of these grifters are so dense or subtly manipulative in their lies that it takes like 20 minutes to debunk every minute of what they say. For reference, see like all the videos out there debunking these liars and weirdos. Or see Potholer54, also known as Peter Hadfield, a geologist and science journalist who's made several videos meticulously and calmly dismantling Crowder's lies and misleading videos about climate change. Crowder was scheduled to debate Hadfield, but due to scheduling conflicts that Crowder totally couldn't accommodate, they never got to speak about the very clear explanations of Crowder's very obvious lies. Crowder's video about this is now set to private, interesting. Hadfield has also made in-depth videos about PragerU, and specifically climate liar Patrick Moore, who can be seen lying for, oh, Steven Crowder, that's fun. So instead of addressing the outright lies in his articles and videos, he challenges someone to a debate, and in this case, ducks the debate. More on that later. My point is, he seems to lie about things, and specifically doesn't seem to want a system where people can get healthcare free at point of service or be free from medical debt. So I was rooting for him to have an actual change of heart. I'm sure a lot of people can look at these tweets and think they were sarcastic, but I like it when people don't die and are good to other people. That's like my politics. And I know it's stupid and corny and unrealistic apparently, but wouldn't it have been great if Steven Crowder went to a bunch of doctors because he was worried that he was going to die, and they helped him, and he could easily afford it and didn't have to worry about being able to afford it on top of the stress on his mind and body of having to get surgery. It seemed like he was scared, which is fine. It's Shocktober after all. But wouldn't it have been neat, or even swell, if he experienced that and then thought, wait a second, I'm so lucky, and it's possible for a society in the 21st century to make that experience available to everybody. You don't have to be lucky to afford medical help. Wowee, I guess I've changed my mind. You know how his whole meme thing is that he's apparently willing to have his mind changed? It's the thing he's most known for, aside from being racist and homophobic for attention. And yet, in the last 12 or so years, you might be shocked to learn that Steven Crowder has only claimed to have changed his mind once. And that was about now liking Elon Musk, because of course. Also, the first 8 minutes of that video has Crowder talking about how he still thinks electric cars aren't good for the environment, nor are subsidies for electric cars good, but he needed autopilot because of an ailment of his wife, and also he drove one and they're fun to drive, so he changed his mind on Tesla specifically. Bravo, Steven. Anyway, hey, and geez, why has this amazing feat of changing your mind about a product your wife needed only happened once? Is Steven just always super right about everything he says? Or perhaps, maybe, it's just that the rest of those Change My Mind videos aren't private, personal stories that involve driving a cool car and his wife's medical needs, but rather they're debates that play out like...
What example we point to before we go on, because I know a lot of times we disagree, of a successful socialist country?
Well, there are different kinds of socialism. I think you're thinking of the Soviet Union and Venezuela when you say these are unsuccessful countries. But you also have Sweden, you have Norway, you have Finland, you have Denmark, you have Germany.
Sure.
These are countries that have robust economies and high levels of socialization.
Right. What's their minimum wage?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head.
What if I told you that they have no minimum wage?
There are plenty of countries that have high minimum wage. Australia has a high minimum wage.
I know, but we didn't talk about them. We talked about a successful socialist economies.
Ooh, he totally got him! Steven totally destroys a random college student, is what they all will say. Except Germany actually has a minimum wage, and the rest of those countries have trade unions that set wages for different industries. And so in Norway, for example, an unskilled worker still makes the equivalent of about $15 an hour. But that kid, who actually owns Crowder later in the video, and was also on a little fascist Little America First show, so I don't know. But the point is, he isn't necessarily going to know this stuff, because he's just going off the top of his head, while Steven has come to his campus specifically setting up a topic he's gathered information on beforehand. Information that, in this case, was just wrong, and in a lot of cases, he's cherry-picking, versus some dude who can't readily access information backing up their point. This is why these videos are not so much convincing to watch as they are frustrating. It's frustrating to debate someone when you're unprepared, isn't it, Steven?
This is important. I'm going to defend myself here because you have someone here at the ready, and what you do is instead of bringing up information, this is what happens with Christopher Titus, right? You don't have information that you bring up. You have another guy look up a source that you specifically want him to find.
I didn't ask him to bring that up.
Yes,
He just
you did.
brought it
And he
up.
brought up Washington Post and goes, "This is what's wrong with your article," taking a
No,
joke out
he
of
had already been
context.
talking. You didn't have a joke, and all he did was pull up some f***ing
two
information.
people bringing up information, me without a laptop.
No.
That's Steven going against top debate mind Joe Rogan about marijuana, something Steven has made entire videos trying to convince people is bad. His claim to Rogan is that since he's a user of the pot, he just wants it to be good for you and is cherry-picking studies to back him up. Emoji of hand-rubbing chin.
Something else, a lot of people are going to be surprised when I say benefits of tobacco or its active constituent here, nicotine. Controversial, I know. Nicotine, when separated, by the way, from the dangerous habit of cigarettes, specifically inhaled tobacco, not the boogeyman it's made out to be. And I know you're going to say, well, I'm just trying to justify this habit. All right, in order of safety, it goes cigarettes, and then and then probably chew and snuff. What is it? The Swedes snus in the nose?
Snooze.
I don't know. And then it goes
You put
down
that in the nose?
Then it goes probably
What the hell?
cigars and pipes because you're not. And then it would go to like vaporized nicotine, pure nicotine or nicotine gum. Nicotine by itself actually eliminated from tobacco. When they did studies on mice, it was almost impossible for them to get the mice addicted to nicotine by itself.
Hey! That's not true. But I'm getting in the weeds again here, and not the cool weeds that Steven hates. Steven, who smokes cigars that are totally good for him. And so, yeah, of course he doesn't change his mind by randomly interviewing college kids. He has specifically designed it so that he doesn't have to. But maybe facing an actual life or death experience would perhaps actually change his mind about something. Like, despite all of the other chances he's disingenuously given himself, perhaps this was the chance. Perhaps going to the hospital is the dark third act to Steven's character arc, resulting in a Hallmark Channel change of heart.
But what a brilliant business model to create a vaccine, and then God knows what's going to happen with the variant, because there are variants with all kinds of coronaviruses that have existed since the beginning, since the inception of coronaviruses. And now, because of a variant, you need another booster. And of course, there will be another variant, and you're going to need another booster. You basically so once you join that circus, you better stick along for the ride for the rest of your life.
Nope. That wily vaccine business model got to him first. So yeah, almost literally the day he was back on air, he started questioning the overall consensus of medical experts. You know, the group of people who, according to him, saved his life, and cashed in on being a contrarian who pretends like doctors can't do shit for you, and alternatives like ivermectin are the only chance you have.
If you go to the hospital now, they say, go home and take Tylenol, come back in, and they toss you on a ventilator. In other words, let's say ivermectin were used, which it has been in some other countries. We cannot argue whether it's been used effectively or not because that's not allowed on YouTube. However,
I think we could say Joe Rogan did effectively use it, though, or at least in his opinion.
Along with the monoclonal,
monoclonal and the vitamin
antibodies.
Weirdly enough, Crowder's vast medical knowledge is, in this case, incorrect. And you know, I don't think we need to do the work to explain the effectiveness of the vaccines or the ivermectin stuff, especially since we just did that. And if you haven't yet, maybe you should, definitely get vaccinated. The point is that, of course, Steven Crowder is going to snake his way into appealing to the anti-vaccine crowd, proudly tweeting, in case it wasn't eminently clear, no, I have not taken the mRNA vaccine. And, that's weirdly specific, my guy. Like, that just means you got the J&J shot, right? It's really obvious, actually, right? Much like Tarko Karblung and Dave Theodore Rubin, of course he got the vaccine. It's obvious even with your highly specific and careful wording. So why does Crowder suddenly not trust doctors right after being treated by doctors? Does he have one of them memento brain things where his memory wipes every 10 minutes? Has anyone checked him for tattoos? Why would this seemingly principled man who is super concerned about trusting doctors suddenly trust doctors when his life was actually in danger? Surely he can't be like a total hypocrite, right? Or like completely full of shit. Oh no. It might be that. It might be the second part of Steven Crowder's origin story that we need to talk about, which is the fact that before being whatever he thinks he is today, Steven Crowder was an actor. While he was performing bad stand-up in his teens, Crowder made multiple appearances as extras and bit roles in such films as David Duchovny's The Secret and 2006's The Covenant, two films you definitely need to Google for vastly different reasons. Most famously, he was the voice of Alan the Brain Powers on the TV show Arthur.
What would you think of me if I ever got anything wrong?
Huh. Weirdly prescient children's show about aardvarks. You got any other hilariously fitting clips from this show where Steven Crowder played a cartoon animal?
And what's the deal with cafeteria food? Excuse me, but if I want slop, I can read Ogelberg's treatise on binomial coefficients. Laugh, 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 laugh.
And I came. Now, I'm not going down some rabbit hole where I call Crowder a conservative plant like Sir Ben Kingsley's character in Iron Man 3. Crowder's roots are firmly right-leaning, and he would in fact go from this stage in his life to being hired by Fox News to write, I shat on you not, multiple columns about the importance of abstinence before marriage. In fact, from what I can tell, Steven Crowder started his life as a theater kid raised by religious conservative parents who, and this is important, was probably bullied pretty bad for it.
You've got to be the stupidest person in the world to bully a gay or trans person in school. As a matter of fact, I bet you they would say like, hey, Timmy, what are you, gay? Yeah, I'm sorry, don't let the dean know, I'm so sorry. Whereas when I was a kid, I got called it all the time because I wasn't gay, but I was a loser.
Yeah, you'd have to really be stupid to bully gay kids in high school. What you gotta do is wait until you're in your 30s and then bully gay kids. Anyway, you see there at the end of the clip where things might have gone wrong for old Steve, where he says he was a loser as opposed to him now. I can't speak to this part of his life, but Steven Crowder went to college for arts and only lasted a few semesters. His life was a mix of interest in acting and having the type of politics that would clash with most peers in that field. And to top it off, he was trying to be a comedian but having no success, and so he made a decision, and that was to take on the role of a conservative tough guy, culture warrior, doing the most edgy things he could think of to get attention. A big, strong man who tells it like it is and performs masculinity like a little boy trying to act like an adult to see an R-rated movie. Like, say, pretending to be an anti-union on-the-ground reporter who gets punched in the face and then stops doing that and then just resorts to confronting college kids because he's a tough guy. And it's very transparent. He wears little cowboy gun holsters, a prop gun on his desk, posts pictures of himself smoking big man cigars that are totally good for you to seemingly counterbalance some deep fear that getting medical treatment would make him less of a man or something. And it's why he tries to impress Joe Rogan with his big boy whiskey opinions and immediately backtracks when offered some.
You know what's actually a great whiskey that has is Wild Turkey 101.
That stuff's disgusting.
No.
We have some. You want some?
No, I'm good.
Pussy.
But Wild Turkey 101 is a fantastic drink. It really is. It's like Jim Beam advertises aged 4 years. Well, Wild Turkey 101 is 8 years off the bat.
Look, it's fine if you don't want to drink, Steven. I'm not gonna bully you about that, or your incredibly wrong opinion about Wild Turkey, because bullying is bad. But hey, I get it. Guns and whiskey and cowboy shit, it's all pretty cool, so they tell you. So before I get to this next part, maybe in the spirit of the season, I can learn a thing or two from Steven and try to appeal to his target audience. Hang on a second, hold on. Hold the on. Yahoo! Oh yeah, this is the stuff right here. Check me out. It's Rowdy Cody, and I'm a big boy, you better believe it. Pew, 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 pew. Eating beans, fucking horses, no, not that, but I'm so ready to go onto some random college campus and find a 17-year-old freshman to practice techniques I learned from how to argue with liberals and win. Ah! A middle-aged man with opinions and information, my only weakness. So look, the point is, when you recognize that most of what he says is a bunch of curated lies, when you boil him down to this foundation, Steven Crowder is a cosplayer. He's no different from your average Spider-Man or Wolverine at a convention, the only contrast being that he wants you to think he can actually climb up buildings or shoot bones out of his skin. And actually, hold on, let me check. Snicked! Ooh, I think I actually peed. Anyway, the fact Steven Crowder is a cosplayer explains his whole shtick. It explains his background, his hypocrisy, his boilerplate and uncreative opinions on everything, and why he put his life in the hands of qualified medical professionals when it really mattered, before happily suggesting that doctors can't actually do anything for you if you get COVID. Does anyone seriously think that Steven Crowder himself avoided the vaccine and would take ivermectin instead? No. The guy is, to be frank, a coward with a healthy sense of self-preservation, for the most part. Cool looking with those totally healthy cigars. And when he had to have surgery, he didn't go to a random quack doctor after reading one retracted study about a new type of heart surgery using horse blood. It's real doctors for me, horse dewormer for thee. Probably the best combination of all of these concepts. The lying, cosplaying as a tough guy who puts his money where his mouth is, claiming that his mind could be changed when his mind is actually so far up his ass the only way to get money near his mouth would be through an enema. It's all really best seen with Crowder's contribution to the discourse on the murder of George Floyd, aka pretending to get his neck kneeled on to show people it's not so bad.
We're ready when you are. Ready? And 3, 2, 1.
Okay, all right. So
timer down. Kneel.
Kneel on my neck here, shoulder.
Oh, pause the timer.
Oh my goodness.
It's okay.
There we go. All right, now I'll roll it back.
It's actually more uncomfortable for me because I have a bad shoulder. So my left shoulder right now is popped out of the socket, but
it's 5 seconds in and you don't like it.
So yeah, obviously some real ghoul shit to cosplay and belittle someone's murder, making a racist mockery of police violence against minorities, standard Crowder shenanigans. But you probably noticed something else wrong with this video. Namely, he doesn't have the guts to actually reenact how Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd, because, you know, he probably didn't want to get killed or severely injured. We won't replay the video of the murder, because you've all probably seen it already, and lots of you probably don't really want to see it again. But as would later be explained in court, Derek Chauvin puts his entire weight on George Floyd's neck, with his feet barely touching the ground, whereas Crowder's friend dressed as a cop clearly has most of his weight on his feet, and his knee is on Crowder's back, not his neck, so that they don't kill him on camera like the actual fucking murder video. It's so glaringly obvious, even Crowder's sidekick calls him out during the filming.
I just don't see this as the same move, though.
What?
Dave, how do you see it as so different? Are you saying
put up the photo?
The photo, do you think all of his weight was on the front of his knee?
I do think that towards the end all the weight was on the front of his knee. Yes, look at how he's leaned up, look at how Tokunawa is.
What's the difference between what Tokunawa is doing versus the picture?
The picture looks to be
he's very much
higher. See, that's two of us saying that. The officer is higher,
okay,
absolutely.
So Tokunawa just makes your body upright.
Yeah, push it higher. Higher.
That's
He's saying trying to keep your body straight up.
About there, right about there. Yeah.
There you
That might be too high. A little back.
No, not you, Brennan.
So, Steven, did that
Brennan,
change
let go of my
anything for
legs
you?
and just hold my feet.
Now
that's what happened.
Now ask Tokunawa if he feels that he's got to put more pressure on his knees.
Well, I'll tell you what, it actually is less weight on me from when he got up. Right.
Hey, good point, henchman. You know about how this detail pretty much invalidates the entire point of Steven's nearly 2-hour video? Also, I'm pretty sure that if this was a real case of police brutality, Crowder couldn't simply direct the officer exactly where he wants his knee to go like he's guiding a masseuse.
My response is agreement.
I think they were lower on the legs there, Brendan.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what, Tokunawa, let's also, because now they're saying it was on the neck and shoulder, let's move the knee to a little more, it wasn't on the shoulder, it was across the shoulder blade.
Wouldn't you have to restart the clock?
No, the point is they did both positions, most of the time was on the shoulder and the back of the neck.
Hey, weird how he can lift his head during this, almost as if he isn't pinned at all and is just lying and cosplaying. And I don't mean about the murder victim here. He's actually cosplaying as Christopher Hitchens. See, back in the day, when we were at war in the Middle East, no, I don't mean a few weeks ago, I mean back in the early 2000s during the Iraq War, there was some controversy over whether waterboarding, where you slowly suffocate someone with water in a hood, is torture. Gee. But furthermore, golly. I wonder. But pro-war conservatives swore it wasn't really torture, just enhanced interrogation that was simply just so uncomfortable that the prisoners felt compelled to tell you anything, even lies, to get it to stop. You know, torture. Pro-war Christopher Hitchens was skeptical about this torture being all that torturous, so he actually tried it. And I mean actually tried it with waterboarding specialists and immediately begged for the experiment to stop and published an article called "Believe Me, It's Torture," where he admitted how much being tortured sucked and that he actually changed his mind. And that is, of course, most of what I'm getting at here. That along with cosplaying as a tough man, Steven Crowder is mainly cosplaying as a man actually willing to have his mind changed. Some big brain, objective, intellectual renegade who's just totally just asking questions. Just using logic and facts and such. Only he's just so incredibly transparently bad at it that it's often hilarious how stacked he makes the deck to prevent any actual growth. For example, a bit less ghoulish than "the murdered guy wasn't murdered, and to prove it, I'm gonna take a nap while my friend pretends to put his weight on my neck." My first real and only interaction with Crowder was 4 or 5 years ago in a video about gun control. In it, while talking about the so-called gun show loophole, I reference a video of Crowder's in which he debunks the gun show loophole. The point of my video is that the gun show loophole is real, though interestingly enough, I've since changed my mind because it's not a gun show loophole, it's just a law. The way the law works, it's not a loophole. But you can buy a gun from a private seller without a background check, in part, at gun shows. That's just true. But Crowder, well, he went undercover, or, you know, cosplayed as someone undercover to prove this wasn't possible.
Which one of these can, do the most damage?
What are you looking to do with it? You're probably just having fun at the range, right?
Yeah, let's call it that.
Are you doing like home defense or like what is your?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
At least.
Is that your intent to make this into a fully auto?
Does it matter if I say yes or no?
Yes. Yes. And
then I'll say no.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we cannot sell you a gun.
Wow, I can't believe they wouldn't sell you a gun, Steven. Epic investigation. We really learned a lot. Anyway, I pointed out how silly it was to claim that this hidden camera footage of Steven Crowder pretending like he's going to murder people with guns is in any way proof that you can't buy a gun from an unlicensed vendor at a gun show. I pointed to an actual investigation done by the state of New York with actual hidden camera footage of someone actually trying to buy and successfully buying a gun at a gun show. That's all. That's all I pointed out. And his response to this was to tweet in all caps, "Challenge accepted," and then say we would debate. Not "would you debate me," but treating my little segment as a direct challenge and request to debate him. I would show this tweet of his, but he deleted all of the tweets associated with it. Here's my response if that helps. I still am not sure what he wanted to debate, but I didn't, because that would have been silly. Debate what? I'll meet privately with him, have a little drink of his choice, ask him why he thinks pretending to be a future murderer is proof that you can't go to gun shows and buy guns from private sellers. Again, much like cosplaying as Hitchens, he's cosplaying as an investigative journalist, going out doing real undercover research to debunk the lies of the left. But he doesn't do that. He does...
Does it matter if I say yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Then I'll say no.
And again, I totally get it. Cosplaying, I mean, not making a mockery of someone's murder. But like, I did theater, I was in bands, I did sketch comedy for a decade. On this show, I mostly talk to versions of myself and a puppet. Do you actually think I've ever worn a suit before? This is my only tie, and it's for this. Costumes are fun, Steven. After all, the world is scary out there, and many adults love to dress up, not just on Halloween, in order to feel a level of empowerment they might not normally get. I mean, check this shit out. Yee, ha, and ride 'em up. When you dress up as one of your favorite characters and go to conventions or pretend to be them, it's fucking fun. But also, you get to pretend to be someone you admire, or think it's cool to shoot lasers out of your butthole or do real good punches. You get to be fucking Kratos or the Joker or what have you. But the key to fun, healthy cosplay is that you know it's pretend. You know you're not actually Kratos or steampunk Simba, but it's fun and freeing to kinda act like you are. Meanwhile, Steven Crowder is cosplaying as a version of Steven Crowder that Steven Crowder wants to be perceived as. Do you think Steven Crowder, the guy who voiced the brain on Arthur, grew up as a gunslinger in a post-apocalypse who needs to wear Nathan Drake gun holsters on his mom and dad's YouTube set every day? No, it's cosplay. It's him pretending to be a tougher, scarier, and most importantly, an objective and logical version of himself. Just like the brain did on the second half of the 11th episode of the 3rd season of Arthur.
I started shaking, my legs were quaking, my stomach aching, my brain was breaking. Started turning green, feeling mean, it was like in that story. I was acting strange, quite deranged, it was pure allegory.
Okay, the brain in this clip was not actually voiced by Steven Crowder. He voiced the brain in seasons 5 and 6, but you get the point. And I don't know, maybe he is aware that he's putting on a show. He sure likes dressing up a lot for quote fingers comedy purposes, and he would probably use that as the argument for why everything I'm saying is phooey. But even when he's purposefully doing a costume, he's often doing it to cover for something traditionally perceived as weak by conservatives. If he's not just, being racist. Like, remember how conservatives supported businesses refusing to make gay marriage wedding cakes? You remember that. And you can probably guess where Steven landed on that issue.
See, these laws are allowing businesses to maintain their private right of refusal to be involved with certain activities.
Cut to now, and Steven Crowder was suddenly very concerned with sites like YouTube pulling his videos, probably because they suspended him. And so Steven whined and sued YouTube, and then presented that whining and suing like this.
Crowder's coming and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
And just imagine that playing at a big cosplay convention center. I'm not a, huge fan of YouTube, like and subscribe, but what Steve is doing here kind of encapsulates a lot of how he functions as a, let's call him a pundit. This is obviously a joke he's doing. He's dressing up like a tough guy on purpose to plug his show. But the lie he tells himself is that he doesn't do this every time he's on camera. He's always the big tough cowboy, right up until an actual cowboy comes along.
Oh no, Sam Cedar!
He's an actor, a cosplayer. And that would be okay if the things he was saying weren't so incredibly caustic to anyone too young to realize he's a liar and a hack. You know that guy who saw Mad Men and decided he needs to be Don Draper, missing the entire point of the show that Don Draper is a shallow, performed identity, and ironically performs the identity of Don Draper by smoking cigars and drinking whiskey and disrespecting women. Or better yet, disgusting. He's Mike Rowe, who, if you don't know, is an ex-theater kid and opera singer with a degree in communication studies who goes on PragerU to tell other kids not to follow their passion, even though that's what he did, and became an actor who plays the part of a blue-collar worker on television in order to sell anti-union and anti-minimum wage propaganda, and who lectures students about useless non-trade degrees while he himself got a degree in communication studies. You see, this guy is funded by the Koch brothers and big oil companies, and that's how he went from the guy selling Precious Moments figurines on QVC to a fake blue-collar all-American gritty grit man on TV.
Precious moments. Hope your day is full of them. Perhaps these little figurines would add a bit more preciousness to your day. You remember How the Grinch Stole Christmas? Those little Whoville kind of guys? Yeah, I can hum a few bars. But don't these look like those guys who hung out in, what was it, Whoville? Cindy Lou Who? Like Smurfs, sort of.
He's Ben Shapiro with his failed ambitions of making it in Hollywood, Tucker Carlson bouncing around news networks, getting humiliated by Jon Stewart and finding a slimy, tight hole at Fox News, or the pattern of comedians who suddenly pivot to conservatism when their routine becomes stale otherwise. Steven Crowder wants an audience, and he tried everywhere to find it, failed miserably, and so he landed in the one oasis he had, being a scared little racist. And he's not even very good at being that.
I said, I'm gonna go to New York, made as a comment with a shirt on my back, 3 clean pairs of underwear. 2, actually, after I went through Spanish Harlem. I bumped into a guy there, he got mad. He's like, oh, hey man, who do you think you are, okay? Oh, I know your kind, I know how your people treat my people. I'm like, whoa man, I'm from Canada? We don't even have your people, okay?
Was that a German accent? Also, that story feels, made up. Also, it sure seems like Steven gets mugged a lot, at least according to him.
It's really, really safe. Like, you could wander around anywhere, 3 a.m, it's no problem. It's beautiful.
Well, I can't. I was mugged twice.
In Montreal?
Yeah, I was mugged over a set of Interpol tickets by a small Haitian. Incidental. I only say it because the story was one that I've told on air. Yeah, I was mugged for Interpol tickets. He was a scalper anyway, mugged me for the money for the Interpol tickets. And then, anyway, the whole point is...
That's really humiliating. That's really humiliating, especially because he was small and it was Montreal. It's like, how did you manage that? And twice.
Do you know how he got away? He screamed. I swear to you, this is true. He screamed out that I was racist, and I stopped chasing him.
Look, I don't want to just call someone a liar, even though they literally lie for a living, but it seems like all of these encounters involve minorities on the street randomly accusing Steven of being a racist while also attacking him. And maybe there's something to that, especially since the only actual clip we have of an encounter like this involves Steven approaching a black graffiti artist, trying to debate him about cops shooting black men, ignoring every single word he says, and then calling the cops on him.
Hey man, do you mind if I ask is this your business here? Yeah, you had to board it up?
No, I said this is my business.
This is your business?
No, I'm telling you, I'm minding my business.
Oh, is this your business here?
No, I don't own this.
Oh, I was asking about your art.
Stop talking for a second.
Well, no, I'm asking you a question. You say you people. I don't think that's racist.
You're not even humble enough to stop talking. How you gonna come to ask black people about what they're going through, but you can't even humble yourself to stop talking?
You've talked most of the time.
You want to waste my time?
I'm not want to. I want to know what should we do?
Listen.
I'm listening.
Listen.
Yeah.
Your people, when they call the police
white
on
people.
our people.
White
yes,
people.
when the white skin complexion call the police on the black skin complexion, they say black people.
Yeah.
So that means that nations need
Some people do.
And that's not a racist
But not
comment.
all white people.
Just listen, man. Stop interrupting me, please.
Well, you just said you people.
Stop interrupting me, please.
Go ahead.
Your people, white people, is what I said.
Right.
And that's not a racist comment. That's a fact.
You
that's
said,
what. Stop. Don't interrupt
no, but you're wrong. You're saying racist shit,
Don't
man.
interrupt me.
You can't say you people do and then say not all white people are the same. Just like not all black people are the same. Not all white people are the same. Just like not all black people are the same. Does the owner know that you're doing this? Did you talk with him about it? Is this art or graffiti? Okay. Is it art or is this your business?
Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro.
Is this your business?
Thank you, bro.
It's not your business?
The interview is over. I'm gonna start recording. You keep harassing.
Is this a business?
Yeah.
Is it your business?
No.
Okay. Let's have someone call the police about to find out if it's a business.
That's not some professional leftist debater he's talking to. Just a dude on the street minding his own business who talks circles around him. So yeah, Steven Crowder has to put on his big boy gun holsters, sit in an air-conditioned studio, and make his half-assed racist points in the safety of his own bubble. And look, not knocking the format, obviously, but it's pretty breathtaking how most of his points and jokes only work in this extremely curated environment.
What? But the issue here is...
Go super woke.
Why do you need
all the way.
a black James Bond? This is the issue when people talk about it. It's like you're injecting race where it doesn't need to be. What the? What did you do to my watch? What the? With my watch and my car? I can't. You look. I can't see the plate on the car. You know what's gonna happen with 5-0? I'll get pulled over for that. I can't do that. Dropping spikes and shit.
Hey, Steven, why would a black James Bond speak in a racist version of an American black scent? What is he, a farmer? James Bond is British, and Idris Elba, the actor people want as James Bond, is also British. Does Steven Crowder, not know that black people can be British? Because he might. He seriously might. Or I guess he's being, edgy. But it sure seems like, at the end of the day, Steven Crowder is just really insecure and dresses up in fun tough guy costumes and has honed in on other races as the target of his insecurities. And that's, it. He grew up religious, probably sheltered, and bullied. In fact, Crowder hated bullies, probably for that reason. And yet here he now is, bullying every marginalized group he can think of, bullying trans people on Trans Awareness Day, calling the fucking cops on that guy earlier. He was bullied, and now he's a bully. You know, the worst reaction to being bullied. The resentment of being bullied transformed into basking in the power of being a bully. So, congrats on the mind change, I guess? But I don't know, unless he does something actually edgy or notable, this should be my one and only video completely devoted to him. And we should instead maybe discuss the larger conversation of how the internet and social media should deal with people like him, and the balance of taking the good with the bad in an age where everyone and anyone has a voice, for better or for worse. Because while he seems so transparently obvious, Crowder is a very effective starting point for any young man like him to become an absolute racist monster, also like him. Because he's pretty much still that young, impressionable, angry man he appeals to. He has, ironically, not really changed his mind about anything in decades. And while I don't want to go into it too much, it should be noted that a bunch of personal accounts from people interacting with him have described him as both off-putting and disingenuous.
But to answer the question of why I actually stopped going on his show was because just some things that Steven had said to me off camera that kind of led me to believe that a lot of the things that he says about the LGBT stuff are not really how he feels, and that it's more of an act, and that it's more just what his audience wants, and it's pandering a little bit. And so I kind of felt like my position on his show made less and less sense because I don't act, and when I go on, it is for actual commentary.
Look, grains of salt here because this is so anecdotal, but it speaks to experiences that others have described about the whole right-wing sphere. Like, perhaps most ironically, or coincidentally, or I don't know, I'm not gonna look it up, person Crowder is deathly afraid of talking to, Sam Cedar, who often describes an interaction he once had with right-wing radio host and California governor hopeful/failure Larry Elder.
He's like, come on guys, we leave that stuff on the field. And we just looked at him and go like, do you have any idea what your on the field antics lead to for this country?
No, it's performance art.
Honestly, that was certainly the impression that I was left with.
Again, grain of salt, but same story, different guy, but same thing from two folks with very different politics. It's an act. And I don't really want to prop up comedy genius Gregg Gutfeld's personal account of the time he went to a bar with Crowder and watched him sit on the floor and drink milk, which is based on a text exchange between Gutfeld and YouTuber Vic Berger. But I find these details interesting, only in that they, if true, seem to confirm everything I've been getting at here. Which is that at the end of the day, it really just seems like Steven Crowder wants to be popular, and perhaps needs an actual friend. Someone that would, I don't know, just spend time playing Mario Kart with him as opposed to feeding every racist and stupid thought he has. Most of his political views seem to come from personal experiences, his interactions with the world that perhaps might not be the usual interactions most people have. Like, he seems to get mugged a lot. I know we mentioned that, but I don't think we've fully, really paused to appreciate how often Steven Crowder apparently gets mugged. And he seems to get mugged a lot by non-white people who apparently call him racist out of nowhere. And he has carried that over to, like, everything he says about non-white people. A very good example is when he talked about teachers going on strike for better pay. And while most of the episode is him mocking the phrase, teachers are the most important job because doctors exist, and like, yeah, good point, Steven, he mocks them for having to buy supplies and reads an article about teachers' complaints set to sad music, and it's all the level of dumb you'd expect. But in a very revealing few moments, he discusses his own experiences with teachers, citing just a few who he actually remembers. One who helped him with math and stayed after class to work one-on-one with him for a few days.
I've had some great teachers, but I've had a lot of, when you average it up, most of you have had somewhere between, in Canada it's a little bit different, I did immersion, so I've had somewhere close to 40 teachers by the time I was in college.
Right, yeah.
Most people have somewhere between 25 and 40. We go through grade school and high school, okay? I can name you 4 that had a positive impact on my life. Put it this way, I'm not condemning all teachers. What do I think? Let me simplify it. I think Miss Naidu deserves a 6-figure executive salary, and the other teachers deserve intern base pay. There you go, in a nutshell.
And bizarrely, he concludes that only those specific teachers he liked are the ones that should be paid more. The other teachers who he didn't like are the bad teachers, and they should be paid less because of his personal experiences with those teachers, ignoring the fact that there's a good chance the bad teachers helped other students who weren't specifically him, and that his story is actually an example of why we need more and better paid teachers so they can spend more one-on-one time with students instead of having dozens and dozens and dozens of students each semester. But it's just a really clear example of Stephen using some sort of personal anecdote and extrapolating it to his entire ideology and worldview. Most teachers didn't help him, so he kind of like hates teachers, I guess. He was allegedly mugged by non-white people, so he does racist caricatures of them and then calls the cops on a guy for embarrassing him. He was bullied by who he viewed as the left, and so he thinks bullying trans people is like getting back at them or something. It's just sad. Like, I certainly don't want to invite pity for someone who has done as much harm as Steven Crowder has, but he really just seems like a sad, scared person. And he's taken all of his personal anxieties and prejudices and turned them into an inconsistent and hateful ideology. And so he cosplays as a more confident, objective, manly man and uses that as an outlet for his early struggles with acting and comedy. This entire persona built on insecurity and a sheltered, skewed upbringing. He's actually like weirdly a lot like Darth Vader, not the part where he actually looks cool and is a badass and knows choke magic, but rather the origin of Anakin Skywalker turning to evil because of a series of stupid assumptions and misunderstandings. And I don't know, Steven, if you're watching this, maybe I can be your friend. You stop this thing you do, and I'll play Mario Kart with you, and maybe you can talk to me about your personal life and acting aspirations, and I'll listen, but still probably won't laugh at your jokes. And then, perhaps together, we can find you a few gigs, or maybe get you in a room with someone with dark skin and teach you not to be scared of them. Baby steps, you know? Speaking of which, congratulations on having twins. I sure hope when they grow up, they won't have to watch their father's racist, sexist, homophobic YouTube videos and end up not wanting to be friends with their own dad. You know, like a certain pair of other twins. Now that might sound a bit manipulative, but like, has it occurred to Steven that perhaps one of his kids might end up trans or gay, or simply more accepting of LGBTQ people? You know, since that's a thing now with the young folk. Or is Steven going to keep them sheltered, isolated, and start an entirely new cycle of what was done to him? Because it doesn't matter if he doesn't really believe the things he says behind the scenes, it's still out there doing harm, creating and influencing more people who do believe it. If he actually cared about these communities, he wouldn't be putting out this harmful nonsense. It's just something he tells himself to make himself feel better about being a scared bully. Got a little real considering my costume, so I guess it's time to mosey on out of here. Let's ride, Steven! I named him Steven because, you know, it was the person I've been talking about, so. We didn't use it in the episode, but we got this too. It's like a Gatling gun, but it's bubbles because it's tough, but it's not. That's something, right? Hey, thanks for watching. Last week I said we'd do costumes this week, and I was right. That's called continuity. Like and subscribe if you haven't done that yet, and we've got a podcast called Even More News, and this show as a podcast, so check the description for that. And we've got merch with a puppet that you love on it, and other stuff. And patreon.com/somemorenews. And dogs.